Cutbacks, cutbacks, cutbacks. First they go for the art, then they go for the music, then they go for Shakespeare and the theater. In that sense, the arts are like the proverbial canary in the mine shaft. But there is more to education than reading, writing, and arithmetic, and Lola Rasminsky holds high the thought that an art education should be available to all children, regardless of financial means. Her school provides classes in life drawing, in pottery, and musical theater. She started it 25 years ago in her basement, and today her school takes in approximately 1,100 students per semester. Lola Rasminsky is one of those quiet ones on which good communities depend and rest, doing important work without a fuss. It's heroic, really. Lola?
We were told that we weren't allowed to bring the security blanket of prepared text, but nobody said anything about teddy bears, so I brought my teddy bear with me. And she's promised to help me out if I need her. So, but for the moment, I'm just going to set her down. In fact, the teddy bear, well, someone asked me as I came in if yesterday's moose had grown. The teddy bear is really quite an important symbol, and the Dr. Gabor yesterday referred to it in a very touching way. And I want to talk about the arts and the value of the arts, the importance of the arts, and what we can learn from artists, what both children and adults and business executives can learn from artists. But keep your eye on the teddy bear, because he's quite relevant to this discussion. When Moses asked us to summarize or distill what the root of our idea was, my mind instantly went back to the time when my own children were very, very young. And one of my sons in particular, I thought showed an extraordinary act of imagination. At the age of 6 or 7 months, he decided to latch on to the full-length, white, quilted bathrobe that I wore when I nursed him. And he simply wouldn't let go of it when I wasn't around. And apart from sometimes being annoyed that I had to wash this thing every few days because it was white, and he'd eventually, when he learned to walk, drag it around with him. I was struck by the sheer brilliance of his choice of a security blanket, because as Dr. Winnicott, the well-known British psychiatrist, has taught us, the security blanket or transitional object represents something very, very important. It's really the child's first act of imagination. The child learns to pretend that that object is his mother. And that way he can deal with the terrible separation. He's been in the mother's body for 9 months. Now he has to deal with being separated from her. By creating or imagining that something else is the mother, he can take some control. And he doesn't have to feel victimized by not having what he wants when he wants it. I think this is the beginning of the imaginative process. And I think it's really important for us to realize that it occurs so early in life. I want to talk a little bit about children, and Robert referred to it as well. I think that children have it all figured out very early in life, and then it gets beaten out of all of us, and if we're lucky enough, and if we're artists, often we don't lose it. But when you think about children and how children think, what comes to your mind? They're curious, they're spontaneous, they don't worry about being judged. They pick themselves up when they fall down. They live in a world of fantasy. They're able to create illusions. They have imaginary friends. And being able to pretend, to imagine, is probably one of the most important qualities that we can have. Everyone at this conference has demonstrated that magnificently. Some of the questions today, especially on the sense of wonder that have come up, have started with, let's pretend, or imagine, or what if this happened. It's all the same question. It's a childlike question. And we lose it. And I believe that we can be trained to think with imagination, and the way I know best is through the arts. But just to briefly tell you, I did start a school in the basement of my house, and it now, as Moses said, serves, by now it's 1,200 students. But more importantly, we send artists out to work in inner city schools. And we also work with the police in some very troubled housing projects, introducing the arts to kids there. And if there's time, I'll talk about it more later. But we reach about 3,500 kids in inner city schools. And what's important, especially, well, to anybody, but what's important about pursuing the imagination, enhancing the imagination, living in the imagination, is that that's the only place we have choice. That's the only place that we can choose who we're going to be, where we're going to go, who we're going to go with. We're completely free in our imagination. And that's where we establish our identity. We establish our identity with the choices that we make. And that's why it's so important. We all know who we are to other people. We're a wife, we're a mother, we're a colleague, we have 10 roles, all of us. But unless we have a place where we can choose who we really are at essence, then we're not going to feel that we're unique individuals. We're going to feel we're somebody else's version. What Moses didn't mention is that I also have a related enterprise called Beyond the Box, where I work with business executives, giving them the opportunity to experience hands-on arts activities. Again, with the purpose of learning to think differently. There's such a premium place today on the ability to think differently. And I believe that artists have an awful lot to teach us about how to think differently. And so I see this as a kind of cross-training, that if we can have some experiences thinking differently via the arts, that those muscles, those creative muscles, will be strengthened for anything we want to do. What this conference has really, well, I think to all of us, it's been incredibly inspiring. We have heard from so many people with what the wonderful British poet David White calls imaginative courage. People who've had the courage and the vision to see an as yet unseen future, not just to see it and imagine it, but to bring other people along with it. I mean, imagine being serious about building an elevator to space and getting other people to come on board. It's an extraordinary thing. What I want to do is talk a little bit about how an artist thinks, and I can't cover it all, but my feeling is that you will all recognize yourselves in this profile, and that the people who are here, all of you, already think like artists, but maybe you don't know it. Some of you know it, and some of you don't. One of the things that artists are very good at is noticing more. They say that to be able to draw or paint is to be able to see, that if you can see, you can paint. And musicians hear more. Musicians listen with the expectation of learning something. Even yesterday when Sukyin Lee was doing the improv and she was giving instructions, everyone was hanging on every moment, trying to get it right. And that's how we listen. As musicians, we listen very, very carefully. So I'd like to try a little experiment with you. And please turn to the person next to you. And if you've got your notebook, keep it at hand with a pen. And I want you to take, and I want to tell you there's a prize for the winner of this little contest. Take a minute to find out how many things, no, I'm only going to give you 30 seconds because I see I'm running out of time, to find out how many things you have in common. Ready? Go. Okay. All right. Put up your hand if you found 5 things in common. All right. 10 things in common. Wow. 15 things in common. Goodness. 20 things in common. Okay, well, you would have been the winners, and I do have a prize. The prize is our Avenue Road Art School Jumbo Book of Art, which Kids Can Press published and has sold 35,000 copies already, I'm very proud to say. So the person who wins the next contest, which is the follow-on contest, is going to win that. Stand up with your new best friend back to back. Back to back. All right. Now, here's the real contest. How many things do you remember about the way that person looked? Write them down. There really is a prize for the person who... What kind of hair did they have? Were they wearing glasses? Were they wearing any jewelry? Did they have a beard? What color eyes did they have? Were they wearing a shirt? Were they wearing a t-shirt? What color was it? Were they wearing pants? Were they wearing... Did you notice their shoes? Ten more seconds. One more second. Okay, and stop. Okay. Put up your hand if you remember, if you noticed 10 things about the person. Okay. Wow. Okay, 15 things about the person. Yes? Just one person. Stay standing if you notice 15 things. Okay. This person wins the prize. Okay, I'll give it to you later. Now, you're already proving my theory that that all of you think like artists and have very powerful powers of observation. Because when I do this with corporate executives, sometimes people don't notice a single thing, and if someone gets 5 or 6 things, that's a lot. So you're amazing. Now, that quality applied to working in a corporate setting or even in our day-to-day life, just the ability to notice more. Imagine how much trouble we stay out of when we notice things that are in front of our nose. Imagine how much we notice the possibilities of the resources that we have in front of our nose. I mean, that's how innovation starts, with noticing more possibilities. Imagine the kind of feedback we could give to our colleagues if we actually observed what they were doing and passed it along. So the ability to notice, which artists have, is very, very valuable. The next thing that artists are able to do, and this is another little exercise for you, is set the inner critic aside. Send the judge to his chambers and bring them out after the deed is done, but not during the creative process. It's very, very important to be able to not be judgmental of yourself or others if you're in a creative development situation. So now I'd like you to, you've got your books and your pens at the ready, I'd like you to close your eyes, feel your own face, feel your forehead, the shape of your forehead, your eyebrows, where your eyebrows join up with your nose if they do, where your cheekbones come, how your chin feels. And then open your eyes for long enough to find a blank page and to put your pen on the page. And after that, you're on your own. With your eyes closed, I want you to draw a self-portrait. And you have 30 seconds to do that too. So, go. Five seconds left. And open your eyes. All right. So, I'm sure. Now I'd like you to do something else. Thank you. I'd like you to turn to your new best friend, find another blank page, and draw a portrait of your new friend, but you're not allowed to look at your page. You can just look at them. So turn to your new friend and go. Okay. I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not quite finished. What would I do without you? Thank you. I wish you had more time to do this, but isn't it interesting? If I told you when you came in this morning that you were going to draw a self-portrait or a portrait and a portrait of someone else, you would have said, not me, never. But the fact that you knew that you couldn't, nothing could be expected of you, you couldn't be judged, allowed you the freedom to do something wonky and wonderful. And now you've got two perspectives on yourself, and that's another thing that artists are incredible at doing, and that's seeing things from different perspectives. There are many perspectives that we can take on every issue. One isn't any more legitimate than the other. They're all legitimate. That's what Picasso was trying to tell us in his Cubism. So artists give us a sense of perspective. Now, the biggest thing that artists do, and it's the thing that I actually admire the most because it's the most difficult, is they seem to develop a tolerance for failure. Like the toddler who falls down and gets up again, artists learn to deal with failure. And we all know that in order to think innovatively, we're going to have to fail occasionally. If it weren't new and innovative and it were a sure thing, it wouldn't be new. We wouldn't be risking failure. But we're always risking failure when we think differently and think in innovative ways. And artists are very, very good at doing that. And we've seen several wonderful examples. On the first day, Terry Mosher showed us how he started his drawing about the marijuana party again. He recognized that it wasn't It wasn't what he wanted.
Can we see his sketches just now?
Chip Kidd gave us, several versions of the book jackets until he got it right. And I'm sure Robert Bateman and all the other artists here will tell you that they could start, they're faced with a blank canvas, they could spend a whole day working on something, and at the end of the day feel their day was a complete waste of time. And similarly, actors and musicians, they put themselves out there and express themselves, bare their souls, and people can walk out, or people might clap politely, or Marilyn Lightstone was telling me that the thing as an artist that she finds most difficult is not having the chance sometimes to work as an artist, and the courage it takes to keep on thinking of yourself as an artist or an actor or a musician, a performer, when they're not calling you every day to perform. It's tremendous. And we all have such an aversion to pain. I mean, that goes without saying. But somehow we have to develop a tolerance for at least acknowledging that it's all right to feel pain and it's all right to feel like we're a failure. So I'd like to do a little exercise now, which is a classic improv exercise, actually. I'd like everyone on this side of the room at the count of 4 to say, I feel like a complete failure. And as soon as they've said it, everyone on this side stand up and give them a real standing ovation. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like a complete failure. You guys deserve a turn to have that feeling, because it's a great feeling. So this time you can say, I've just made a horrible mistake. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've just made a horrible mistake. Okay. Moses is giving me the sign that I've got to leave soon, but I do want to do one quick survey, because this is a chance of a lifetime for me. I want to know, this is an extraordinary group of people, I want to know how many people here have pursued one of the arts in a serious way, either in high school or now, or just taken it seriously, that you've studied it. It could be, a course in high school, but put up your hand if you have. Yeah, isn't that extraordinary? Isn't that extraordinary? Almost every one of these remarkable people has, and yet the school system is getting rid of the arts. And, it's the same, while we're talking about the need for innovation, the school system is saying, no, we want to train efficient minds, as if training people to think with imagination is not going to help their efficiency. It's just crazy. I think that this conference is such a celebration of the ability to think with imagination. I would call it a festival of the imagination. I mean, it's just been extraordinary. Just one last thought. I mean, the transformational power of working, of doing creative work, is so extraordinary. I see it in the children that I work with, especially the children at risk that I work with, and with the corporate executives. You can see the change on people's face from the time they walk in to the time they walk out of an arts experience. It's a different face. And why is that? It's because they have choice, they're making choices, they're not feeling judged. They're feeling a sense of who they really are and a sense of their own uniqueness. And that's very, very powerful. Robert quoted Einstein before, and the need to think differently from the way we think. And as you all know, Einstein said, knowledge is important, but there's nothing more important than the imagination. And I believe there's nothing more important. It's important to train the mind, but there's nothing more important than training the imagination. Thank you.
You feel better?
Do you want me to go off the other way?
Okay. Now, Lola, have you heard about the beaver gap?
The what?
The beaver gap.
The person who got the book, please find me afterwards.